Hi class, this is now part 2 of our lecture on basic counseling skills, and in the prior conversation we talked about attending skills. Yeah. And its importance in conveying that our client have our full attention. And we talked about the 3 V's and 1 B, and we have considered visual or eye contact as patterns of uh, looking at each other, and these have their own meanings when it comes to counseling. So I'd like to present a more practical guide in oculesics, but I'd like to first say a note of caveat. Now, while these are guides, this should be taken only as guides. Now, they are not absolute. When I say that a client looks into upper left, it means that they are visually accessing, for example. Does that mean that just because we see them looking towards the upper left, does that mean that we can read their minds? It just gives us an idea about the kind of thought process that they're performing when they are when their eyes are behaving that way. So a better response to that would be asking questions if maybe they're remembering something because we notice that they're looking at the upper left. Okay, so this visual accessing cues or eye direction meaning was written by Bandler and Grinder. Yeah, and when a person is looking straight ahead, we could say that they are visualizing or considering um, accessing an information, maybe reading or ano ba, they are like uh, paying attention to you. So if they look towards the upper left, these are visually constructed. No, this is your upper right. When they look to the upper right, it suggests that they are visually constructing. They are imagining something in their mind's eye. Like if you would ask someone to imagine a purple buffalo, malamang wala may purple buffalo. So it means that they're going to imagine something. So they're likely to look on the upper right. In comparison, when someone looks towards the upper left, it might suggest that they are visually remembering something. So if you're going to ask someone what color was the first house that they lived in, they're going to remember that information. And it is more likely that they will look up left rather than up right. So if you notice your client behaving in oculesic ways such as this one is from neurolinguistic programming. It might be a point of inquiry for you to ask to them, did you just remember something? You seem to be imagining something. Malaging ana. So you don't assume nga mao jud ang ginahuna nila, but you give them an opportunity to verbalize it. Otherwise, they might ansa na, they might like to have that thought process private at the moment, and uh, finding the right time for the disclosure is also important for you as a counselor. Okay, for towards the right, that would be constructed sounds. Towards the left, that would be remembered sounds. Mhm. Yeah. So towards the right, constructed sounds, they imagine a sound, while towards the left, that's a remembered sound. Um, Towards the right, these are feelings and body sensations. Yeah. And towards the left, that would be internal dialogue. Okay, this is based on the assumptions of contralateral control by our central nervous system. However, it also has implications in terms of the handedness of the person. If they're left-handed, for example, it could have an opposite meaning. Uh, so what's happening here is that it's sort of like a reflex of the eye movement, which gives us a clue of what the thought process is about. Okay. So again, a word of caution. Let's take this in a tentative manner and suggestive manner, not as an absolute idea or absolute fact about what the client is performing mentally. So it is always important for us to confirm whether this is true in our client's context. Okay? So now, dito na punta sa vocal qualities or the tone and speech rate. We're often told, hala, you have a very nice counseling voice. Nabudyo daw counseling voice. Ano? Well, I would say that your normal voice is your counseling voice. Um, what is special for your counseling voice is that you know how to use the intonations of your normal voice so that you convey the right emotion. May kinahanglan nimo o gusto nimo i-convey sa imong client. So your voice oftentimes gives more clues about your feeling than what you actually talk about. So for clients, for example, that is also true, especially when the phenomenon of verbal underlining, where they emphasize certain words, which could have special meaning to them. So paying attention to words that are underlined or emphasized could help you in understanding the language of the client. Kaya maupod to ang mga words nga gamiton nimo. Kung mapansin nimo nga murag tagaan niya balik-balik ang word nga mama. So instead of calling that person a different name, mother or mommy, you use the language of the client, particularly if there's verbal underlining dito. Be very generous and respectful of accents because we are going to face clients multicultural coming from different cultures, and they will not always say the same things as we do in the same ways. So when in doubt, it's wise to use your matching of your vocal tone to the client. If your client speaks loudly, you also match it. The strategy of mirroring involves following after your clients' vocal qualities. If they're speaking softly, you might also want to speak softly. If they're speaking loudly, you might also want to speak loudly or slowly or whatever. Um, it just it primes your client to think that you're thinking in the same way. It suggests that you're going to the same thing. You're trying to go with their pace. Yeah. Okay, so those are some considerations. I'd encourage you to make a recording of yourself and then listen to your own voice. Maybe try to feel emotions and then watch out how you talk. Like for me, ako ang speech rate mo paspas siya if I'm tense or if I'm excited. Yan. Tapos mo kusog. Yeah. And so it's also good to be aware of our own vocal qualities. Okay, the next is verbals. We begin with the first V, which is visual eye contact. The second one is vocal qualities. The third one is verbals. This is following the client's story. Verbal tracking refers to allowing the client to elaborate more on the narrative that they are sharing with you. Yeah, this is encouraging the client to stay within the topic that you'd like to focus on. So this is particularly important for you as a counselor to trail with the client the details of what they are trying to bring. Yeah, yeah. And essentially, you would oftentimes be murag kung sa actual pa na counseling, night times nga kanang confusing siya kay taas kayo yung lang mga istorya, no? And so taking notes might be important or highlighting something in your mind na you're going to focus, okay, my next question will be about this. Ganun. Tapos you don't have to construct your question while you're still listening. You can allow for some time for pause para mag-reflect po din yung mga clients ang gisulti at the same time na po kay time nga maghuna-huna. Nga na. I mean it's becoming comfortable with the use of silence. Okay. And finally, the last, which is body language, it's being attentive and authentic. There are nuances here in terms of gender and personality. For example, proxemics man ni siya. Ang proxemics is the use of, no. This one is, yeah, it's partially proxemics and kinesics, the use of body language. So women, for example, tend to feel more comfortable with closer distances than men. And introverts would need more distance, while children would prefer closer distances. So there are variations across age, personality type, and gender that you have to consider when you're designing your counseling space or when you're conversing with your client. Difficult topics could also trigger tensions. You would often notice tensions in kanagong uh, sana kana nag-alog-alog ang tiil. Hindi man ako ma-demonstrate kay half lang man ako ang webcam. Kanang murag nag-shake-shake iyang matiil, iyang paa, maggunit sa naong, ana, mag-ana-ana, mga fidgeting. Those are clues that you could um, notice. So what you could do is you could point out, say using murag tense ta no, murag ana. So you say it in a way that is calm. So para mag-elaborate imong client. Kaya ang point man gud nimo, you're noticing the body language so that they would get in touch with the emotion that is being expressed in the body language. Okay, so these are examples of body language. For counselors, for example, we would prefer an open body posture rather than a defensive. And for clients, this is something that we should watch out. Yeah, they might not be willing to talk to you. So, mirroring again is an important skill that we have to consider. Kung ang imong client is sitting in a similar way, you might want to pattern your body language, yeah, your posture with the client. Not to the point nga murag conspicuous ra pud kaayo siya nga murag ginasundog-sundog na nimo siya. Pero in a gentle and subtle way, not exact but similar na body posture. So this is a position of evaluation and suspicion, readiness versus boredom, medyo na leaning forward, boredom, holding the chin, expectancy versus frustration, palms together, open feet, and then self-control and nervousness. The fingers are expressive, so watch them. The toes are also expressive. Watch for where the toes are facing. Kung wala ganing nakaatpang sa imong toes, it might suggest that your client wants to leave. Kay wala siya kung ang body posture niya is partially nakakilid na sa imo, that might be an indication nga dili na siya gusto makigstorya. Confidence and insecurity, these are all um, yeah. I gave you examples, counseling sessions conducted in Canvas. I think there are 3 counseling sessions that I uploaded from YouTube. Watch them and notice the nonverbal behavior of the client. You can make comments about what you have observed in Canvas. Okay? So I would recommend for you as counselors to follow Egan's solar theory, yeah, which means that we sit squarely, comfortable, but in an angle and at proper distance appropriate to the culture of the client, not slouched, but not stiff, but just comfortable. And there are times ko dito sa cups, 'di ba, ang couch kay lapad man siya. Taas na ko akong mga tiil, just to show that I'm also comfortable. To allow the client to suggest to the client to be comfortable also. Open postures, walay mga ana, or mga ah, naka-D4, although naga-D4 man pud ko usahay kay depends on the context man gud. Pero kung nakaana na ka, tapos imuhang naong ug imuhang boses ug imuhang tiil close tanan, so it might mean that you're not open to listen to your client. Leaning forward is a sign that you're interested. Not the exaggerated pud nga lean forward nga ana na pud kaayo no, murag pretend na pud kaayo. But the comfortable lang na lean forward. Yeah, and of course, eye contact and just be relaxed. Not too tight and not too tense. Just your comfortable position. Eventually, your client will get to know. Ing ana jud ka ang imong body posture and your nonverbal behaviors. Okay, so that is attending behavior. That's your 3 V's and 1 B. Now we're going to talk about empathy. And one of the wonderful definitions that I found of empathy is, let me read. This is not laying trips on people. You only listen and say back to the other person's thing, step by step, just as that person seems to have it at that moment. You never mix into it any of your own things or ideas. Never lay on the other person anything that the person did not express to show that you understand exactly. Make a sentence or two which gets exactly at this personal meaning the person wanted to put across. This might be in your own words, usually, but use that person's own words for the touchy main things. Yeah. So, this is a practical step for empathy that we could follow. Empathy now becomes a practical skill that you could use in the way you speak, in the topics that you'd focus on. No, daily, I mean, there's a way of communicating empathy. It's not just we experience empathy para sa ato, but we also know how to make our clients feel that we are being empathetic to them. And one of them is by attending to them, and second is by saying to them back what they have said. Now, we often call that one reflecting or paraphrasing. It's a different skill that I'd like to talk about in later lectures, but as a summary, reflecting is when you put back the emotion of what the client had said. uh, it's paraphrasing when you put back the fact that the client had said. So duha to siya. Kung emotion ng imuhang ibalik sa muhang client base sa iyang gisulti, that would be reflection. Kung fact siya, that would be paraphrasing. Like say, maingon siya nga, um, hago man kaayo mag-eskwela og online learning. Uy, tapos among mga teacher inconsiderate pa jud kaayo mag-upload og mga lecture sa gabi, unya mag-demand og mag-submit tayon og requirements. Ing ana. So ang ako halimbawa mag-reflect ko ato. Ingon ko nga nakabati ka og frustration nga imong teachers mo wala nakasabot sa mga stress sa mga estudyante nga nag-online learning. So, ako ang reflection dito is nakabati og frustration because I'm highlighting the emotion there because I'm making a reflection. Oo. But if I'm paraphrasing, moingon ko nga, ang imong mga teachers wala nakasabot nga lisod i-juggle ang mga demands sa online learning, labi na nga limited ang inyong internet connectivity o usahay dili pud sila considerate. So I'm stating a fact there gamit ang word sa client. Ana. So ang trap dito class that I often hear when I've been teaching this subject is that wala ako na sa ko paraphrase o reflect na ako samtang nagapaminaw ka. What usually happens is that we fail to listen accurately and in the moment because we're trying to construct our reflection and our paraphrase. Uh, so it's important. I mean, I'm sure it requires practice, no? So in your daily conversations with people, start with reflection and paraphrasing. Start with attending. You don't need to do it in counseling. In fact, people would notice that you're a good listener if you do this. It doesn't have to exist in a counseling relationship. Kaya magamit yun na nimo in your daily conversations. Yeah. So my suggestion is that in your talk with people, whether it's online, kana sa chat, 'di ba? Or in say home conversations, you might want to practice attending and you might want to practice paraphrasing and reflecting. That's a different topic that we will cover eventually in this chapter. Okay, so there are several kinds of empathy that I'd like to focus on. The first one is subjective empathy, where the counselor gives back to the client less than what the client had stated. As I told you, um, part of the listening skill is giving back to the client what the client had said to allow the client to elaborate more and to convey empathy that you have understood what the client is saying or what the client is feeling. Subjective empathy happens when you fail to capture what the client is saying and feeling and then you throw it back to the client incompletely. It's still empathy, pero it's subtractive empathy because it's incomplete. Basic empathy is when you're able to uh, return back what the client gave. And additive empathy would be something where you add your own personal analysis and insight. Uh, um, like say, katong ingon niya nga hago na siya sa online class. Pwede ko mo ingon nga I notice nga pagsulti nimo ana nagbugot ka, and I understand nga basin mao ni siya ang part sa imong frustration as a student during this time. Kay wala lang ka nag-worry sa imong family, but you're also worried about sa imong online learning o stressful siya kay usahay ang perspective sa mga teachers lahi sa perspective sa mga estudyante ug murag paminaw nimo di sila willing mosabot sa inyong sitwasyon. So there's an element there of my observation of the body language as well as my interpretation nga actually ang iyahang stress about online learning is sort of nadugangan siya by stress in the personal and family experience. Pwede siyang agikan sa iyahang previous na storya. Okay, so I'm conveying empathy there, but I'm also trying and inviting the client to elaborate more about sa iyahang experience. Okay, so using empathy in your conversation means that you aim to understand the client's experience and worldview by communicating back to the client what they said and what they felt. So, seeking to communicate that understanding to the client, but avoiding missing your own thing in what you say. This is not parroting. Naikalahian ang parroting. Kung parroting, mura kag nagsundog lang sa iyahang gisulti. Isulti mo exactly kung gisulti sa imong client. What you want to do is to add your own personal flavor and understanding of the emotion or the fact, at the same time capturing the important elements of what the client had said. Okay. So, kani siyang, you seem to have said murag nakabati ka og ing-ani, paminaw na ko ing-ani mo ang gisulti, tapos butangan nimo dito sa tumoy, ug tama ba? Na kay accuracy check kung nakuha ba jud nimo ang iyahang gusto isulti. Ah, so when you do that, murag you're inviting the client to tell you more about that. Okay? So applying attending, practice changes your body. As you do it more, it becomes habituated. Yeah. It becomes automatic for you. And these skills are specific. In the context of you could use them in the context of counseling or even in your personal relationships. Remember that the brain drives the brawn, which means that as you practice more about this, as you practice this, your brain becomes adapted to using these skills regularly. So practice is crucial, and short-term intensity, doing it repetitively in such a short time, cannot replace a long-term commitment. Even if you're not going to be counselors, class mahimo mo the psychologists, teachers, or bisan unsa gani inyong profession, you could use these counseling skills. In fact, kani good na counseling skills, you could do an entire session using just these skills. Kaning attending, empathy, paraphrasing, and reflecting. With just those four skills, you could deploy an entire counseling session using that. And practice provides a continuous feedback loop. Recording yourself doing these things. Um, I've had the opportunity to practice this often. As you know, I'm also working as kanang sa online na sort of mental psychosocial support for an app. Yeah, Life. If you're stressed, I encourage you to download that app. It's Life, LYF. It's an Australian-based company. I think there are five of us or four of us psychologists in the Philippines working for this app. Unya, ang clients are around the world. And then we do online chat-based na counseling. One of the interesting cases kay na may case dito for dissociative, ing ana. Tapos nindot siya kay ang exchange good na mo nga mga psychologist dito kay we're conversing kung unsa man ang pwedeng buhaton for this client, unsa ang na-miss sa kaka-psychologist, unsa ang alternative na interpretation sa iyahang experience, ing ana. So the conversation is ongoing. And even the owners who are Australians and the programmers and the staff are willing to input their contribution to that discussion. Yeah, so it's a competence developing opportunity. Okay, the final skill that I'd like you to learn is observation skills. I uploaded 2 videos there of observation skills test. But observation skills means that we observe our own and our clients' verbal and nonverbal behavior, and anticipate individual and multicultural differences in nonverbal and verbal behavior. Carefully and selectively feedback some here and now observations to the client as topics for exploration. What is critical that I'd like you to focus on is the feedbacking of the here and now observations. So yung mga nakita nato. So usahay na yung mga comments nga na, but then ako nga murag dili ka mahimutang adtong topic nato kay kani. Ana. Tapos dili, wala kay question. Kato lang imong gisulti. So you're making an invitation nga mag-elaborate siya kung ano, but you're not asking the person. So naa siya freedom ba kung mag-elaborate siya or dili. Kung extended silence, what can we do? That's part of the job that we have. So, what is our reaction? What is the reaction of our clients when we use observation? Well, it gives us specific data validating or invalidating what is happening in the session. Yeah, and it will guide uh, the flow of our session in terms of paying attention to tensions and resistance that we encounter when we are talking about certain topics. Okay, what we have to notice is karang ginatawag na to na movement desynchrony. Kapag ngayang ginasulti, di magmao sa iyahang nonverbals. Observe nato. Maingon siya nga lipay kaayo siya pero dili siya mahimutang iyang kamutog nagbugot iyang naong. Di ka maingon siya nga sad kaayo siya pero nakasmile siya. Ana. So pwede na to na i-point out marag nabantayan nako nga kadto pagsulti nimo nga nag-uol kay ka kay wala pa nimo daghang kayong problema inyong pamilya na pero ang imuhang dagway kay medyo naka-smile ka. Murag na ay contradictions dito no. Ana lang ka. Tapos tagana nimong time ang client nga siya na bahala mag-elaborate kung gusto niya o dili. Okay, so nonverbal behavior is often our first clue to what clients are feeling underneath their language. We also have to watch out for kanang ginatawag nato na recognition response. Kanang makita nato sa mata sa photo ang client nga, marag naa siya yung nasabtan dito. This is an important something. When they realize something, yeah, or they recall or remember something that's important, you can often notice that in the way that they look. Marag temporarily mag deep in thought sila. Yeah. So our vocal tone is a tool that we could use that conveys the emotional dimension of our words. We could be saying one thing, but say it in a different way so that the meaning changes as we say it differently. So our facial expressions are also important and good indicators of the kind of relationship that we'd like to build with our client. Yeah, dili man pud nga kanang smiling jud ka always, pero there are times na where uh, you deliver something with a smile because you want the client to understand that this might be an invitation to be more open. Yeah. And or you want to convey to the client that you accept what the client is saying. Kanang ma mm, mm, kanang ganing mga usahay often kay medyo ang tendency man ako kay mahimong interrogative kanang murag ah investigator. So, mag-avoid ko question na sa akin, ano lang ang mga reactions. Okay, para you're trying to ask but not say it so that they are free. Masabtan man pod nila na, by the clients. So what we want is movement synchrony when what the client is saying and how the client is behaving matches, or even us when what we're saying and how we behave matches. So this could also happen when the nonverbal and facial expression or body language of the client and the counselor match. Uh, when they match, in fact, you could see this in couples who are thinking in the same way or kung kanang mag-away sila, makita nimo kay magsugod na sila og ang ilang mga non-verbal kay pattern if you observe them. Yeah. So mirroring is a tool that we could use, and that is when we deliberately match the body language of the client. Not mimic, match lang. Not exactly sundog pod, pero i-follow lang, pattern lang nato ba? You could have maybe a few seconds na delay before you move to the posture that the client is adopting. Okay, so in terms of our verbal behavior, it's important also to use the language of the client. Yeah, and identify the keywords that the client regularly uses. For me, those words like context, nuance, diversity, kana mga words nga balik-balik sa ako. Pattern. which tells that the kind of thinking that I have. So observing the client's topic and sudden interruptions in the topic, makalit siya gunong, might mean that the client had been lost in thought about something, this topic. Okay. Another skill that I'd like to consider for everyone to practice is the skill of concreteness and abstraction. There are clients who are good storytellers. Unya, they would tell you in detail unsay lang gisuot, unsay lang gibati, unsay lang gibuhat, asa sila, kanang very complete when they make stories. While there are clients who are more thoughts, abstract, feelings, maing ana. They talk about ideas, they talk about reflection, analysis, but they're not good in telling stories that are specific. So the first kind of client that we consider are those that are concrete and situational. They are the clients who give specific examples. Mayon siya og um, nag-uol siya, dili na niya isulti. That's more coming from a client who is abstract and formal. Ang client nga moingon og nag-uol siya, nga concrete, chances are isulti niya kung unsa tong situation nga nag-uol siya or sa unsang pamaagi siya nag-uol. Nga. So we often do that like say asa man nga parte sa imong lawas nimo nabati ang imong kaguol, kung abstract kayo ang imong client, i-concretize nimo siya. Kung concrete pud kayo imong client, i-abstract i-guide nimo siya. Unsa ka ang imong nahuna-hunaan or na-reflect base sa imong istorya. Ana kay puro naman siya istorya. So you want your client to lift to a self-reflective, self-analysis na kind of thinking. Well, if the client is puro ideas, reflections. Pwede nimo siya pangutan-on sa unsang maingon siya og suko kayo siya sa iyahang bana, pwede nimo pangutan-on sa unsa day ang gibuhat o wala gibuhat sa iyang bana nganong nakaingon siya nga suko siya. So, you're trying to concretize unsa specifically. Katong mga concrete situational na mga clients, they're very good at making it concrete. Pero kung ma-abstract na clients, ato lang yang isulti. So you want them to go to the level of concreteness. There's no better way, there's no right or wrong way in communicating. Concreteness is both correct, abstraction is both correct. The trick is in being able to shift appropriately between concreteness and abstraction because some clients are too focused on concreteness, others are too focused on abstraction, and we want them to be balanced. For example, these are concrete or situational statements. Kung bata, very concrete man sila. Johnny hit me in the arm right here. Tudlo jud niya. Kung woman na middle age, she asked me for an example of my ex-husband interfering with my life. Well, a friend and I were sitting quietly in the cafeteria just drinking coffee and suddenly he came up behind me. He grabbed my arm but didn't hurt me this time. Then he smiled and walked out. I was scared to death. If he had said something, it might not have been so frightening. So very concrete, specific to yung example. Let's look at examples of abstract, formal operational statements. Halimbawa, bata, he does it to me all the time. It never stops. It's what he does to everyone all the time. So you want to ask, what exactly did this person do to you at a particular time? To who? To whom did that person do this? When you say it never stops, was there ever a situation where he did not do this to you? And that. So, for example, as I think about myself, I see a person who responds to others and cares deeply, but somehow I feel that they respond to me. Are there any specific people who you felt were not responsive to how you cared for them? So, gina-concretize na ko ang iyahang story or pwede na ko inon nga, um, how do you show this deep caring towards these people? Nga So I change it to behavioral instead of ideas. Okay. Like, as I reflect back on my life, I see a pattern of selfishness that makes me uncomfortable. I think a lot about myself. Yeah. Pwede kong mo respond og, can you give me examples of the selfishness that you talk about that makes you uncomfortable? Mhm. Mhm. When you say uncomfortable, what exactly did you feel and how did you feel that in your body or in your thoughts? Siya nga na. Okay, so aside from being concrete and formal or abstract, Again, the idea there is, na po yung mga counselors nga very concrete, good storytellers. Na po yung mga counselors nga very abstract. Oo. I'm not a good storyteller. I'm an abstract kind. So I have to learn also to be specific. Uh, Another part that we encourage our clients is the use of I and other statements. If you notice, kaning mga statements diri sa ubos. I'm working hard to get along with my partner. I've tried to change and meet him or her halfway, as opposed to it's her fault. I'm not studying enough. I should work harder. Ana. Oftentimes, clients either do not assume any responsibility at all, or they assume too much responsibility. Like say rape victims would often blame themselves when in reality it should be the fault of their rapist. But there are others who look at the fault of their parents, the fault of everyone else, but they would not see their own faults and responsibility in the situation. So your goal there is to shift the thinking of the client. If the client is using too much self-blame, then you try to shift the blame towards others who are realistically responsible for the situation. If the client is not recognizing his own responsibility, then you might want to ask, unsa ka pud ang imong contribution sa ingani nga sitwasyon? Pwede pud nimo siya ingnon nga kintahay 100% ang level sa contribution sa mga taong gi-identify nato. Lista daw nato kinsa na mga taong involved o pila ka percent ilang contribution sa imong problema. So you're going to scale it para makita niya nga ay dili lang tayo ubang tao na po dai ko'y role nga gina play para sa akong problema. So shifting from I to other and other to I and having balance, middle way man ta dire. Both in concreteness and abstraction, the use of I other statements are encouraged to be met in the middle way. We also notice discrepancies, mixed messages, and conflict. Like these examples, my son is perfect, but he just doesn't respect me. Okay, I deserve to pass the course from a student who has done no homework and just failed the examination. Where do you think your entitlement to pass the course comes from? That would be an interesting. Or what role do you play? What role have you played in making sure that you will pass this course? Ano? Para makita niya ang responsibility mo. That question doesn't bother me. Tapos iyang non-verbal. I noticed that while you're saying that, you seem to be flushed and your fists are closed, which doesn't seem to agree with what you're saying. Ana, so I'm confronting. I love my partner, but we just can't get along. You're saying that you love your partner, but you also can't get along. That seems to be a contradictory message, don't you think? Argi nga na. So, I'm focusing on discrepancies in verbal statements, contents of the message, or discrepancies between statements and how they're saying it, or discrepancies between people are in conflict, discrepancies in goal. They wanted to remove the feeling, but they also want to be taken care of because of their disorder. Kay na may benefits ng iyang depression kay na-depress siya. So giatiman siya sa iyang mamagpapa. Kung wala pa siya na-depress, wala siya giatiman. So na-benefit ang pagka-depress niya ba? Ana. So while we are sure that he wants to get out of the depression because the person is suffering, there are secondary gains. Secondary gains that could. So what you're going to do is achieve the secondary gains but without the symptoms of depression. And then discrepancies between the counselor and the client. We seem to have a different understanding of what it means to be uh, maintaining confidentiality in this relationship. For me, I think that this. For you, it sounded like this. They don't seem to match, don't you think? So you're inviting the client to comment. Okay, so your basic listening sequence also involves questionings, and there are two kinds of questions. That would be your open questions, which could be answered with a lot of words, while closed questions could be answered by yes, no, or just brief words. So open questions provides for more elaboration from the client, while closed questions gives you accurate and factual detail, yeah, where you could validate. So open questions could often begin with what, how, why, could, and would. Closed questions are often answerable by yes or no. Okay, so questions really are an important tool that we have learned. In fact, uh, questioning, paraphrasing, attending, reflecting, empathy, kana lang ganing lima, uli usabon na pud nako. Pwede na na siya nga counseling session. Na naka-impact ana. So questions such as, what would you like to talk about today? Oo, unsa man ang nagdala sa imo diri karon? Can be a beginning question that would guide the direction of the counseling. Okay. So the first words of the question often determine the client response. So questions that are beginning with what will get facts. Questions that begin with how could be an exploration of thoughts or feelings. Questions that lead or begin with why could lead to a discussion of reasons. However, a word of caution when using why questions, because when you're asking why questions, clients might feel that why do they have to explain it? And they might feel defensive because they have to explain their side. So pwede siya nga, what are the reasons kaya? Anong natabo ni siya? Instead of, why did you do that? At saka ang mga nahuna-hunaan, ah, um, katong natabo ni or nabuhat ni mo ni siya. Ingana. So instead of why, you're opening the space for the client to openly explore iyahang thoughts and feelings rather than making the client defensive, which could go against your working alliance. So let's try this. Richard makes me so mad. Saka ang question ani, yeah, one question that I could think is, unsa ka ang gibuhat, wala gibuhat ni Richard, nga nakapasuko sa imo ha? That's my standard na uh, response for questions that makes me so feeling ana. Unsa ka ang ilang gibuhat o wala gibuhat? I don't know what to do with my grades. Pwedeng question dira is, unsa di ay ang part sa imong grades nga dili ka satisfied? So they explain nga, unta, blah, 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 blah. Can mama just leave me alone? I just wanted to do things on my own. Mm. Pwedeng ang question diri kay um, ah, unsa ka ang how did you feel when your mom won't leave you alone to do your own things? So the question is a emotion focused question. So what things does your mama not let you do alone by yourself? That's a fact focused na question, which gives me an understanding. So magdepende sa concreteness of or abstraction. Kung abstract kayo ang client, mangutan ako og what are the things that your mama doesn't let you do alone. Kung concrete kayo ang client, ingnon ako nga nasa akong question? Um, how did that make you feel that your mama doesn't make you make you do things on your own? Because I'm trying to elevate the discussion to an abstract level. Okay, so I'd close this with this quote. Success as a therapist is not found in doing something for the client, but rather in being someone for the client. By Eli Rivera Walter. So I expect comments and questions. If you have, you're free to do that in Canvas. Thank you so much, class. Goodbye.